So in this video, we're going to talk about layer styles, and we have a bunch of layer styles in action right now. And let's just talk about a few of them. So the way we get to layer styles is if we're in our layer, we double click and this pops up. So right now, we have a few layer styles going on all at once. Let's look at, let's start off with color overlay. Color overlay basically is just putting a color above whatever that layer is. So in this case, the layer is just the text. So if I put this color above this layer, in my blend mode right now, it's normal. If I change my blend mode, it would affect how the color is blended with, the original text or the original layer. So in this case, if I wanted it to just cover it up, I'll just select normal and it will basically just cover everything up. Now, this was just selected so that I can show you what it is. It's very useful. I like this. I use this more often than most other blend modes, or not blend modes, but most other layer styles. So let's go to stroke. The stroke is basically this. Right now, there's a lot of ways we can actually apply it. We can have it from the outside like we have it now. We can have it from going towards the inside, which in this case wouldn't necessarily be that appealing unless we kind of made it smaller. Then we can have it from the center where it's going in and out at the same time, or we can just completely remove it, and we can change the color and the current blend mode and the opacity. So the opacity was at somewhere about 50 something percent. I didn't look before I changed it, but yeah, so that's your stroke, and let's hide that. Now we're going to go to our bevel. If I select my bevel, notice this looks kind of 3D now. There's a lot of ways we can control this. We can have an outer bevel. We can have the inner bevel like we just saw before. Emboss. We can change it from smooth to hard chisel, or chisel soft. We can change the depth. The more depth, the more detail. You can change the size, which you have to be careful with that. We can soften it, or we can bring the softness down to 0. We can change the angle of the light and all that. And notice that when I change the angle here with my shading, it changes my shadow, because I have a drop shadow as well. So I have a drop shadow layer style selected, and actually we can go ahead and go there. So let's go to drop shadow, and we can actually control. Notice that when I change my angle of my drop shadow, it changes the angle of everything. Even notice that the layer styles that's on this guy is also changing. So if I change my distance just from this shadow, it doesn't affect that guy. But if I change my angle, it affects both of them, but not with distance. I can change the spread, and that's pretty much the size right here is pretty much the softness of this shadow. And yeah, there we go. So I'll just press OK to save all of that. So with him, we have the same, well, some of the same layer styles. So let's double click this. We have, I don't know why that's selected. So we have color overlay. We talked about that before, but it's applied differently here. So instead of it being normal like this and have it 100%, I brought the opacity down and then changed it to multiply, just to have it where it's working like a filter. So it's a filter on this, and then I have my stroke um, layer style on here, and I can play around with that however. And one last thing I want to show you is our fill opacity. So if I wanted to make him disappear, I could make the source of all of this stuff disappear completely, or just make him less visible, and while keeping, notice my blend modes and my layer styles are all still there, while the only thing that's disappearing is my main source. And there's a lot of ways we can kind of get into this and get rid of certain parts and like that, but the main idea is that you can kind of remove this right here. Yeah, so those are layer styles. Again, let's just for the sake um, of making something from scratch, let's not do that. Oh, you have to be careful. What I did was my background layer, and I'm going to keep this in. Some mistakes are good. So what happened was my background layer is a shape, and when I grab my type tool and this shape layer was not locked, it automatically assumed that I wanted to type directly on that shape. So that is an option, but that's not something that I want to do right now. So let's lock this layer. And I'm definitely keeping that in the video so that when something like that happens to you, you'll know how to fix it. So let's go to our type tool, and I'm just gonna type layer styles, and I'm gonna scale it. I'm going to change the tracking a little bit. This Y and this A is bothering me, so I'm going to change the kerning. And this L and this A is bothering me, so I'm going to change that a little bit. Alright, so now I have this. So this is me coming in with a blank layer without any styles. And what I could do is, if I wanted to add styles, I can double click and start adding styles to it. Get rid of the bevel, color overlay. There's a gradient overlay. Let's show you how that works. Let's put that on normal and change the opacity, and now we have a gradient over this layer, and I can change the opacity on it and all kind of stuff. So, and I can change the angle, so don't think that whatever angle you're stuck with is just stuck with it. Also, you can reverse it, so whatever color's there, if I double click this, I can adjust my colors, change what color is there, and even the opacity of this. So if I wanted it to go not from green to 0 opacity, I can change that opacity. So now what's showing up at the end is the original color of the layer. So it's really cool. There's a lot of cool options. I can put my drop shadow there like I had before, change the color of the drop shadow so that instead of it being white or black, it can be a darker shade of the background color, and then adjust that. And sometimes when you use simple very light, like if you put a layer style there and it's not like real bold like this, but more subtle, sometimes that has a stronger effect than putting something there that would be more aggressive. That sometimes that subtleness gives it a brand new feel, and it makes it more appealing, and sometimes it leaves people wonder, I don't know why this looks better than before, but it just looks a whole lot better, and they might not be able to put their finger on it. No pun intended. All right, so let's say that I like this layer style and I want to remove all of these layer styles from him. I can just right click here and I'll go to clear layer style. And now all the layer styles that he had are gone. And let's say I wanted to copy these layer styles from here and add them to him. So what I would do is right click this layer and I would go to copy layer style and I would right click my guy layer and I will paste layer styles. And now those same exact layer styles are now on him. And if I wanted to adjust them, I'll just jump back inside of that layer style, change this, and yeah, and so forth. Yep. So that's pretty much how that's pretty much your layer styles, you guys. So you can add some oomph to whatever you create. The last thing I want to show you with layer styles is that I can, now I don't know when you would need this. Well, actually, yes, I do. There are times, depending on what, if you're working for a company or something. If you're working for a company, then you might need to know how to do this. Especially if you're working for something website related or animation related, you might need to know how to do this. And what I'm talking about is going to be in the next video.